you feel like you are losing your grip, might suffer a trip or abandon ship, open a can of whatever you sip and join the fellowship.
Welcome to Can You Hear Me Now? Our weekly, it's not really a podcast, it's more of a conversation where we create a weekly fellowship of the Ring Pull, who joins us on a Google Meet linked in the video description below this live podcast. Anyone's invited. You don't have to do anything other than just click on the link, mute your microphone's little icon, and there's also a little thing for holding your hand up if you have a question or a contribution, an answer, a suggestion. It's a safe place to come and feel less lonely in this lonely craft form that is music, and particularly my kind of end of the market, music for picture. Lots going on this week. I imagine we're probably not going to, any parents that usually join us on this podcast will probably be out making sure that their children don't burn themselves by holding the wrong end of sparklers. Yes, it is bonfire night, Guy Fawkes night, and we have a themed video going on there. Not much to do catching up wise, other than just a date for the diary. We'll put a post up soon, 21st of December. Note to self. That's brilliant. I've just read note to self as in the thing that you don't read. 21st of December. It will be around sunset, which on the 21st of December in Edinburgh is about 11 o'clock in the morning. No, it'll be
every time it's like, we'll do an intro. I'll write an intro.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. I must write an intro, Alan, all over the place. But yes, so we'll be doing the Solstice Walk, but also just news in, and I'll repeat this probably a few times during the podcast, is we're experimenting with different ways of doing the podcast, the live versus the edited versus the stuff that's distributed across podcast platforms. And we've decided that we want to bring the live aspect of the podcast back to the main Crow Hill channel. We've seen real kind of, not interest, but we've just seen less engagement, and we think it's a shame for newcomers who don't realise that we do it every week not to see it there. So we've worked out that what we'll do is we'll stick the podcast on the main channel, the live version, and then there'll be an edited version which you can watch on Sundays, and thereafter on the Extras channel, which is Crow Hill Extras without the E, and then all of your standard kind of podcast purveyors. So that's a little bit of news there. Another date for the diary is we will move the podcast on Black Friday. We'll do the podcast instead of the Wednesday that week. We're going to do it on Black Friday, and which we will call, as we did last year, that will be called Fuck Off Friday for us. So if you want to escape the deals and the discounts and all of that kind of stuff, take part maybe in a tombola, some competitions, and I'm hoping to get a couple of guests in as well. We will be doing it live on that Friday evening, usual time at 7 p.m. That's Black Friday. So another date for the diary there. We've got a competition running at the moment, which we're getting lots of responses from. Thank you for those. If you go to the hub on the crowhillcompany.com and then click on challenges, that one will be finishing. Simon, I don't know if you can help me out here. It's Sunday, the Sunday before Black Friday. And I'm sure that Simon's going to drop something in the Slack channel here. Simon isn't actually present today because Simon's feeling a bit poorly, but we are here with Alan. How have you been this week, sir?
Been really good. I've not done much, which has been quite nice.
Great.
Quite nice, like a couple of days off. Not much to report back. Quite nice to get back to the podcast today.
Fantastic. Well, I think that we've got a couple of blinder questions. The first of which, actually, both questions, I'm sure you'll have something to say about. So, do you have a favourite episode of Inside Number 9 from a scoring point of view? For those of you who don't know, I scored a project called Inside Number 9, which you can get on BBC iPlayer. If you haven't seen it, it's absolutely brilliant. It's a little bit I'm sure it inspired Black Mirror, but it's that kind of anthology series. If you like dark humor, if you like it kind of scattered with a bit of horror, I'd really recommend looking at it. But it was an amazing compositional challenge because each week was totally different amounts of music that had to be written, totally different genres, and all of that kind of stuff, which is why I guess they asked a journeyman like me, who's a jack of all trades and master of none compositionally, to compose for it. But yeah, it was a 12-year project. And yeah, what was my favourite episode to score from, and one where I feel I completely nailed it? Well, that sounds immodest if I admit to that, but I've got two that spring to mind. The one that I get asked about all the time is Stakeout, which is, spoiler alert, it starts off like a really crappy procedural, but British procedural police stakeout, and it turns into a vampire thing, and it's really interesting because it's the one that people mention the most, and it's the one that I had a real crisis with. It's no secret on this podcast that I've struggled with alcohol over the years, and I'd had a real bender. I was also having to travel to London, and I just basically missed my kind of window of opportunity to write the score. So I had to wake up with just this almighty hangover. And I don't know if you've ever suffered from this, but I just wanted to curl up in a ball and cry. I had like 3 hours to do this thing. It needed quite a lot of score. It was a really complicated kind of brief because it started out as this procedural and then went into this vampire thing, and I didn't know how to approach it. And I had this raging Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse Orwellian hangover. And so it's one of those occasions where you just have to rely on kind of muscle memory and your experience and your honed craft, overcome the self-doubt. And I did it, and I just thought, I'm just going to send it off because there's nothing worse than not meeting a deadline, in my humble opinion. Just get something over. If they don't like it, you can say, yeah, I was a bit distracted that morning, or this, that, and the other. Sent it off, and it was a hole-in-one. I loved it. And then it's the one that the most people write to me about. So it's just ironic. But I wouldn't make a habit of getting wrecked before trying to do something like that. It was just one of those situations that I'm not particularly proud of. But I think that this is the importance of seeing it as a craft form and not an art form, and the as much practice as you can get, the better and more instinctual it'll become, which is why we do these challenges. So if you haven't checked out our hub challenges, please do so, because it's just an opportunity to practice. And it's quite extraordinary how the instincts kick in, how, by looking at, a cut, you kind of can feel the tempo, and how quickly and how easily it is, particularly with stuff like when cuts change and all of that kind of stuff. These things become second nature, and that can only be developed through practice. It's not something that can be taught, and it's not something that is kind of an inherent talent. It's something that you just learn over the years. And then my favourite episode was on the final series, and it was the one that was set in the underground of Liverpool, I believe it was. And it was one of those situations where the director really got what I was trying to do. And I just had to beg him and the sound guy. I just said, this only works if it is absolutely the loudest thing that is coming out of the speakers at that point. And they absolutely pumped it. And it was just kind of avant-garde, electronic, distorted, and absolutely mental. I forget the name of that one, actually, stupidly. But yeah, it was set on the underground. It was in the final series. And I believe it was the first episode of that final series. So I don't know if Simon or Alan, you could dig that one out, because I'm not properly answering the question. Alan, you're no stranger to Inside Number 9.
I'm not, no.
You've done a few bits, haven't you?
Yeah. I think it's called Boo to a Goose.
Boo to a Goose.
Is the one that's first. So my kind of, I loved, was it Wuthering Heist? Which was the Reservoir Dogs style episode, because I think you went pure Lalo Schifrin
Yeah.
on it, which was great. And
It was done in the style of that Italian kind of panto style.
Yeah.
Where everything was done in verse.
Yeah, it was such a great episode. And then selfishly, I really like 3x3.
Right.
Which was because I play the theme on it. Like, you got me in to do a couple of bits for it, and that was it's the one for anybody that's seen it. It's as if there's no episode of Inside Number 9 this week. Here's a new game show that we're teasing.
Yeah, it was like they ran it as a pilot, didn't they?
And it was such a great one because it was funny to know the secret before it got revealed, because I think you never found out it was Inside Number 9 until the end credits, where it morphed from the 3x3 theme into the Inside Number 9,
which you got to play,
which I got to play. So I'm the only instrumentalist outside of the violins that gets to play the Inside Number 9 theme.
And what instrument was that?
That was the saxophone.
See,
this is the thing, Christian. I'm gonna get I'll get you loving the saxophone at some point.
The problem is, as a recommendation, if you're a vegan, don't develop a really good friendship with a hunter. That's what I would.
I love that. That's the kind of thing.
I'm a disliker of saxophones. I was listening to Prokofiev did and this featured in the film that I made last week. Prokofiev did a film score for a film called Lieutenant Kij, and it's got that really famous track Troika. Da, 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 da. I thought, great, I want to listen to the rest of that film score. It's amazing. It's fucking full of saxophone. Had to switch the fucker off. Is there a saxophone part in Troika? Da, 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 da.
Oh, I don't know.
Have to check it out.
I've never played it.
I love that piece. The pizzicato bits of that piece I absolutely love. I was talking to my wife the other day about I really like all of the Christmas stuff that's done in a minor key. And I'm thinking about actually making a Christmas album of just all the scary minor dark Christmas tunes, which I think would be a lot of fun.
Of
right,
course
we have another question. And I'm going to go to you first, Alan, because I need to think about this. Do you have a favourite film or scene from a film that you regard as the perfect example of how to write music to picture?
I love how you're saying I'll come to you because you need to think about it as if I had one just ready.
Yeah.
There's going to be like 30 seconds of just dead air now whilst the two of us try and figure out what it was. I know it's not cliched. Psycho, like the shower scene in Psycho, I think is perfection.
Yeah.
I can't, that way that just my mind has just went. I think as well, main titles of Star Wars.
Yeah.
That first chord, everybody knows it. You can hear like a millisecond of that first chord, and everybody knows that. Oh, that's the opening of Star Wars. You might never have seen Star Wars before.
Yeah.
But that I think is incredible. And then, my mind's went blank for anything else. But those are two decent examples.
Yeah, very good examples. Mine has to be Hans Zimmer, Thin Red Line. There's that, I don't know how long the cue is, but I think it's like a reel. I think it's between 12 and 14 minutes. And it's a brilliant example of something that isn't intrusive, that is repetitive, and creates an emotion because of the repetitive nature of it. And I did, I talked about this on the video that we put out this week. You can hear how much I'm trying to plug it because no one's watching it. It's not just about the music that you play. It's not just about the emotion that you're trying to create with the music. It is the interplay of the action and the music that can create an emotion. And it doesn't have to always be mise-en-scene. It doesn't always have to be a hero theme. It doesn't always have to be inside their heads. It can be something that is actually working against the picture. And I think that it's become Hans's real stock in trade is these very, very long cues, which time is a good example. And I think I imagine what must be really difficult for Hans is these things get temped on everything, and there's nothing worse than having a temp score with your own music on. Editors do it because they think it's polite and it'll fast track you. But for me, it's always, I remember there was a piece that always went on my show reel or always went in a pack of music that I'd send to an editor when they requested, listen, if you've got your own music and maybe some bits you can pick out for me to temp to. And there was this piece that people really liked doing. And it was, again, talking about that offset, that counterpoint between what the music's doing and what the picture's doing to create a really unnerving darkness. And basically it was from the film The Devil's Double, which was about Uday Hussein. And it was this beautiful, beautiful lullaby. And I started working on some children's stuff and I started working on some romantic comedies, and they'd always stick this cue in, not realizing the cue was Uday Hussein or his assistant or his bodyguard lifting the body of a 12-year-old girl that he'd just raped and killed out of the boot of a car. And it would always just be like, oh, don't use that music because I have a trauma bond with that cue. And now we're using it in a much more kind of straight up way. So, that cue from Thin Red Line. And I have to say that I think it's amazing. I think that Hans has had an amazing career, but it's interesting how I think some of the best work of composers can be when they're discovering their own thing and you can hear it developing their voice. I think that's really exciting because you can hear that there's an excitement in that cue. It would have been really unusual back in the day, I guess kind of early mid-90s maybe. Thin Red Line, Terrence Malick. And, I would say if I was kind of really quizzed on my favourite John Williams score, it would be his score to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is, him really, really flexing as a concert composer, but also a really, I don't know, it's just that kind of, there's that fizz of someone just hitting that point where they're really, really nailing it. I think another good example, of something that is just so perfect and so understated is the title card for Finding Nemo. That for me is where, Tom Newman, there was this Arvo Part kind of phase that you can feel him finding his harmonic language. So there's a lot of kind of fratras in Meet Joe Black and Shawshank Redemption. The Arvo Part thing kind of goes into American Beauty. But you can hear all of these influence kind of just, conflate into something that is Thomas Newman and so individual and absolutely stunning, but also understated and just so beautiful. And I have no doubt that's the reason why my kids would literally watch that film on a loop, because it was just that opening moment. We would just go, come in. There we go. So shall we see if anyone else is going to come and join us on the fellowship? If you're watching live, just look at the video description down below and hit the, what's it called? The Google Meet, and come in and let's contribute. Let's talk. Hey, funny. Elliot, how are you?
Sorry. Hello, I'm here.
How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good, thank you. How's it been at Crow Hill?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. We have been looking at properties. I think it's kind of really exciting to create what I dreamt of when we set up Crow Hill, which is a destination for people to come to and use all of this groovy stuff. I've also got something set up in the house next door, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but it's pretty good, isn't it, Alan?
Yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah, some
That's
exciting
just
stuff.
season.
What was that? That's just
just
teasing.
teasing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but that's all we do here at Crow
Yeah,
Hill.
that's
is
all
just
we
tease.
do.
It's like-
That's all we do. The questions that have been raised by the community this week are: do you have a favourite film or scene from a film that you regard as the perfect example of how to write music to picture? Alan has talked about the shower scene. I think what's amazing about the shower scene in Psycho is that it's, well, basically up to that point, music, because it came from the silent era, had very much been mise-en-scene. So describing what's in front of you, describing the dialogue that you can't hear, this, that, and the other. And that continued into the golden era of Hollywood. But Bernard Herrmann came from working with Orson Welles in radio. So I think it's what that horrible, nasty piece of work Wagner described as the inner emotion and the outer emotion. And what Bernard Herrmann demonstrated throughout Psycho, which is so genius, is what's going on inside people's heads. And I think that scene is so graphic, and there's not much. There's a bit of blood, running down a thing, and there's a scream. But what he's doing is he's making you feel the pain of each stab.
So I think what's really interesting, and to go back to my old life as a teacher, I used to do this. I used to do Psycho. I used to do an analysis of the entire score with a class. It starts with a prelude. So you have so before the actual film starts, you have the prelude to Psycho. And just like any other prelude in classical or an opera or anything, a lot of the melodic material is actually stated in the prelude. So not going too theory based, but the shower scene is it's a major seventh. It's the interval between the notes. And the very first two chords that you hear, the very first chord that you hear in the prelude to Psycho, the first thing is a B flat minor major 7 chord. So you hear the interval that will be in the shower scene right at the start. But it's like, if you actually go through that prelude, there's a lot of little, he alludes to a lot of like the other themes in that prelude, which is just how, like, you think about an overture to anything, and it's like it's got all these little snippets. But yeah, so the major 7 interval of the shower scene is the first thing you hear as the film starts.
Brilliant stuff. I love it. And most of that score is recorded with mutes on, isn't it? It's violins with mutes.
I think it's just
this soft kind of almost uncomfortable sound.
I think the shower scene is the only time that they take it off, or the two murders that are in Psycho, because there is, you're right, it's, people describe it as a horror film, and I don't agree with that. I don't think it is a horror film. I think it's a thriller. Yeah. I think because from the off, something's bad's going to happen. Yeah. But you just don't know where. I think the most disturbing scene in the film itself is actually when, oh God, I can't remember the character's name, but it's when the policeman bangs on the car window and wakes her up, and he's wearing sunglasses. And that whole thing about not being able to see someone's eyes is really kind of disconcerting. It's what makes Darth Vader such a great villain. Yeah, is because you can't see the face, and that was the same thing. But I should bring the score. I've got the whole score to Psycho as well. Yeah, and it's amazing if you just run through it how many of in the prelude, how many of these little like leitmotifs, little melodies that he plays are actually all the way through the film. I
worked with his estate when I was with Spitfire and got to look at the actual original scores. And what I loved was the shower scene wasn't called the shower scene. That's become what it's been known as. It was known as the murder. And what was also interesting is how little phrasing on the score, which suggests to me that he dictated it, which probably saved on copying.
I actually saw Psycho done in the concert hall, the Glasgow Royal Concert Hall, a few years ago, and it was with live orchestra or live strings. Yeah, and it was the one time I've ever seen the conductor still using the clock. So he wasn't conducting to Simpty. Yeah, he was conducting to streamers, punches, and a clock.
Wow, amazing. Ethan, you've got your hand up. How are you?
Oh yeah, you all right?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good, man. Yeah, for me, it's the opening titles of Boris Gump, Alan Silverstreet. It's got the power to send I can't explain it, like goosebumps down my spine every time I hear that. It's amazing.
He writes such good themes, that guy. I think he's one of the best,
Oh,
actually. He says that
great,
guy
isn't
because
he?
I can't remember his name. Jeepers. I just should absolutely get my P45, shouldn't I?
Oh, what, for Forrest Gump, you mean?
The composer, what? I've met him. He's
Alan
lovely.
Silvestri.
Alan Silvestri, yeah.
Yeah,
Alan
sorry.
Silvestri, yeah.
Sorry.
He did Predator as well. That's also brilliant, but not as good as Forrest Gump. That's just got the ability just to send you off into a dreamland. I think that music.
Yeah, he is amazing. I had the very great pleasure of meeting him. I was inspired by the opening sequence of Back to the Future with Marty, what's his name, plugging in the guitar.
McFly,
that huge amplifier. And got an opportunity to put a huge scaffolding rig up at Air Studios with, I think it was 48 amplifiers we put on it. And just total serendipity. Alan Silvestri was in Air One recording the soundtrack to the musical of Back to the Future. So he just walked in to Air Studios and was like, what the fuck is, into the main hall? What the fuck is going on here? And I said, I just couldn't believe it. It was like, Alan, it's just inspired by Back to the Future. And so I'd let my brother know that I'd met Alan Silvestri, and, just such massive fans of like Back to the Future and that North Pole Express and all of his amazing scores. And my brother just went, please be nice, please be nice, please be nice, please be nice. He was the loveliest man. His personality was appropriate for the most beautiful and kind of just huggy melodies he's written over the years. So nice suggestion. And I showed my kids Forrest Gump the other day, and they were annoyed at how much it made them cry. They said, you could have warned us, Dad. It's an unbelievable film. Oh, also, did you hear, Ethan, that the whole running sequence, that whole 10 minutes of the film, the studio absolutely did not want that to go in the film. They thought it was already, they could see by the script, it was already running too long. And it felt like a bit of a kind of vignette to them. They felt that it didn't really contribute to the arc. So they said, we're not going to finance that part of the movie. We don't want to make it. So the director and the director actually went to Tom Hanks and said, listen, you and I, we've got to be together on this, So, and Tom Hanks, well, what can I do? Can I just go and threaten to leave the gig or whatever? And he said, no, let's take it out of our salary. So they paid for that whole 10 minutes of film, the whole running sequence with all the extras and going from one coast to another. They paid for that personally out of their salaries. In return,
I did see something on YouTube where it's only
in return for points.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, in return for points. Yeah, points for what though? What's the point in that?
Points.
Yeah,
points is points? They basically earn a percentage of the take of Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah. Sorry. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And with the way that Hollywood works, it can often be off gross, not net. So they really, really did not regret that as well. It was I think it's top 10 biggest films of all time, isn't it? I think so. Yeah, they would have done very well out of that. It bought Tom Hanks a few more typewriters. Nick Bulavin, how are you, sir?
Hello. I think we seem to be having trouble remembering people's names on this episode. So first off, to set the record straight, the guy from Psycho's called Norman Bates. That's the name. Yeah.
No, it's the actress that pays.
Oh, you mean the woman?
Yeah, the woman. So it's
that I don't know. Now we're totally stuck.
Yeah.
No. As far as favorite cues, Thomas Newman comes to mind a lot. To me. The 1917 score, just in general, and that cue called Night Window, I think is just a masterpiece of film music, and it's obviously serves the scene perfectly, but it's also pretty cool on its own. And then I was thinking, oh, American Beauty too. The scene with the paper bag. that comes to mind as, you know, the cues that I sort of, you know, desert island cues for me, I'd say.
Yeah, it's what I love about that cue is it's not just, again, it's not just mise-en-scene. It's because it is actually quite beautiful what the paper bag is doing, or the plastic bag. I can't remember, but it gets into how in awe of the imagery the videographer is, and that kind of teenage excitement. And I remember it moving me to tears when I watched it in the cinema. That's one of those extraordinary scores that a lot of people own and familiar with the score, but with never having seen the film. It's like it's a standalone.
Yeah.
And it became that massive dance hit as well, that remix.
It seemed like, yeah. I mean, obviously that music sort of transcends film, which is nice when that happens. And when, you know, because we do tend to write a lot of functional music that's not really, you know, of a whole lot of interest on its own sometimes. And oftentimes when you listen to soundtracks standalone, they tend to kind of, there seems to be a lot of filler in them, you know, which is obviously understandable because there's a lot of, you know, underscore and all whatnot. Another movie that I think that served, like, the music really kind of tells the story, is The Theory of Everything. With all the kind of rhythms and this kind of sort of ticking thing going on. I thought that was really cool. Was it Johan Johansson who wrote that? I can't remember, but I think so.
Yeah.
Again, thank God we have the Google machine.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm clearly it's not a name day for me. So you're looking at the wrong guy.
Yes, it is Johan Johansson. Yeah,
Johan Johansson.
That's a tremendous loss for the community. I think he did some beautiful work.
Yeah, I mean, this is a subject that maybe is worth touching on alongside, you know, our favourite examples of perfect film scoring. There's a documentary on the BBC iPlayer, BBC Two, called Girl Bands Forever, and it talks about the rise and fall of a number of girl bands during the 90s, noughties, and early teens, and it talks to a lot of the members of those girl bands, and what they were put through. There was not one contributor to that documentary who wasn't totally traumatized by the experience. And, you know, I do wonder about our industry, the music industry. I think the film industry is improving, but about this complete ignorance of mental health that we find with our treatment and exploitation and stuff. And, you know, if anyone's got any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear it. I certainly walked off the very beginning of what has become a hugely successful TV franchise because I knew that I was in a hiding to nothing. The character I have that, you know, is in this anecdote was basically the line producer. And I had submitted some stuff, again, just for the edit to throw together some temp and stuff. And he called me, and it was 7:00 on a Friday evening, and my kids were really young, and it was one of their birthdays. And I said, "Oh, it's really great to speak to you. Hope everything's okay. Did you get everything all right? Just to let you know, I'm on my own in Pizza Express with 15 children who are all under 5 years old." And he wouldn't let me get off the phone for an hour. And I walked off the job the next day because it was, for me, it wasn't what he did. It was just a red flag that he either had zero empathy or he wanted to control my situation and show me who was boss. And for me, cultures tend to run top down. and I just thought this is I'm just, my life is potentially going to. I mean, I was at a pretty rocky moment in my life anyway, but it was just anyway. I mean, I'd throw it open to everyone who's here.
People tend to forget that it's not, we're not doing open heart surgery or, saving people in the fire. It's not that important. It is cool, but it's not like,
Well, as a guitarist said to me, this is meant to be entertainment. We're not at war. Mr. Mark Taylor, always a pleasure to see your name pop up. How are you?
I'm doing very good. The moment I heard you at the very beginning talk about Inside Number 9, my ears perked up. But yeah, funny story actually. I actually have the samples for Deadline on my laptop. So if you want me to make like a decent sampler port of them, let me know. I can make you one of them, and you can probably pop it on Piano Book. Just a suggestion, rather.
Absolutely, Mark. The answer to would you like me to make a decent sampler version of something I've made will never be no. So thank you so much for that. That would be really good. In fact, that's probably quite a good idea of, I've been meaning to make an Inside Number 9 album, actually, and I should get back on that. Because it is an incredible project to have been involved in. And if anyone who isn't in the UK, if you can find it, it was on, some seasons were on Netflix for a while. But yeah, try and look out for it because it is absolutely crazy. It's also insanely popular in China, believe it or not, Mark. I think they think it's a documentary. This is how these crazy English people live. Elliot Thornhill, you've got your hands up. Back to you.
Yeah, looking at music for film. I was looking for examples to try and explain like motif writing for the classroom, and I was looking at Back to the Future just because it's been it's the 40th anniversary this year of Back to the Future. And I've recently watched all the trilogy again. And I was looking at the third film, and there's the train scene at the end. Spoilers. Something happens in the music that I can't find anywhere else that does this. And I wonder if anyone else has any examples. But in the orchestra, you can hear the train starting and then getting quicker. And then you can hear the chugging of the train. And I just didn't know if anyone else had any examples of where music is painting what's happening on the screen, quite specifically, rather than just giving the emotion. Because I was quite taken aback by that listening, just walking around.
Atonement.
I can hear a train. It's amazing.
Atonement, Dario Marianelli employs quite a lot of music concrete. So the typewriter is the kind of one of the main instruments of the score. It's a beautiful score, by the way. But also there is a moment where at the very beginning of the film where Brenda Blethyn, the actress, is banging the bonnet of a car with her umbrella. It's raining. And that banging noise of the umbrella on the bonnet of the car just features throughout the score.
Oh, wow. Was that Atonement, did you say?
Atonement, Dario Marianelli. Well worth watching the film. It's a good film. But it's an absolute masterpiece of a score by Dario, and he won an Oscar, rightly, for it. It was really interesting. The music editor who was on that film, he was renting a room off me whilst he was working on it. It was so interesting to see him work on something that everyone was certain that Dario was going to win the Oscar for it, because what he was doing was just so special. And there's this extraordinary scene that's done in Awana of, the huge queues at Dunkirk Beach. And what Dario does with the music and how he incorporates it into a choir singing and people chanting and stuff is just absolute masterpiece of film scoring. And what's really interesting about it, a lot of people don't realise, is a very epic and broad sounding score, but it's a chamber orchestra. It's a small orchestra that's playing on that score. Yeah. But there's something that I find really, I've worked with Dario a bit, and something I love about his work is he likes to keep himself on his toes. So yeah, counting the time signatures on that score is it's an effort. Adam, how are you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm comforting a border terrier that thinks it's the Blitz.
Oh, yes, for our cousins who are not from the UK, it is bonfire night,
Yeah,
which
the-
means
the
we
dogs are not
celebrate
happy.
we celebrate Guy Fawkes trying to blow up the Houses of Parliament, or do we celebrate burning?
No,
him on
it's
a,
the other way around, isn't it?
yeah, to burning it, catching him out and burning him on a stake. Yeah, but it's basically prior to bonfire night, we get lots of warnings on televisions of like don't hold fireworks and point them in your eyes. And in fact, we're based very close to a place called Niddry. And what's happened in Niddry, Alan?
Yeah, so they've banned any fireworks getting set off in Niddry because it was like a war zone last year.
Yeah.
Like the police were out. It was, big standoff between a bunch of young lads and the police. So yeah, fireworks. That's probably it's quite quiet, I think, tonight.
Yeah. If you've seen Train Spotting, imagine Train Spotting, but they're all armed with fireworks. That's what it was like last year. But back to you, Adam. I will ask you to correct your poster in a minute.
Oh, is it a bit? I've got to be honest. I've not owned a television, and therefore I haven't seen any terrestrial television, so I've missed out on it, and I want to watch it and put together the album because I'd love to listen to it. Annoyingly, the Opera House just across the way there, they had like a musical or a stage performance version of it, and I didn't have a clue that it was coming. If I did, I would have got tickets, but it popped up and went, so I missed that. So yeah, that's that. And because that was short and to the point, do I get 2 film scores? So I think no one else is going to say it because I struggle. I can't say his name. It's Lilo Saffron or something.
Lalo Schifrin.
There we go. I think his impact on action music and the chase sequence specifically in The Bullet, you just those couple of notes and that sequence and listening to the V8 firing up the hill in San Francisco has to be mentioned because that is amazing. It's just I think every man of a certain age, as soon as they hear that and they hear the tires break traction, what's this? So yeah, that's one. And recently watched, and I was really worried because the score's so nice, so beautiful. And I'm really glad it did. And I can't believe it didn't win the Oscar for the best music. But the film's come right out of my head now. The Mission. I've only just watched The Mission. The score is amazing, and how that didn't win Best Music, it's just amazing. But yeah, if you've not seen the film, it's not lighthearted. It might make you have a little tear at the end, but the music, and to think that Jeremy Irons was playing the old, was it an oboe? I think he's playing.
Yeah.
And I watched an interview with him where he's complaining that the music he was given to learn wasn't the music that was played. I'm like, good.
Yeah, it's an absolutely seminal score, that. I mean, it's Elgar grade good, I think. It's just absolutely stunning. Yeah, Inside Number 9 is touring their West End. It was a huge hit in the West End, and they're coming to Edinburgh soon. And Alan, you get £8 a night, don't you?
I know, it's great. I get money just coming in.
Yeah, so they got us to pre-record some music that featured Alan on saxophone. And so they went on tour, and he gets paid £8 a performance. Is it £8?
Something like that.
Oh, it might be 18 actually.
I think it's 8.
8. Okay.
I mean, it paid for my last, like the check that came in paid for my last trip to Malaga.
Brilliant. Back to you, Adam.
Yeah, I just seem to be set in a thing where I seem to always pick films that haven't aged particularly well.
Oh, I tell you what, Adam, I showed my kids about 2 Christmases ago. I showed them the Eddie Murphy thing, Trading Places,
Oh no.
which I have a really fond memory of being really funny and stuff. My eldest daughter's mixed race, so is, you know, really in tune with this kind of stuff. And the whole kind of dressed up in a gorilla suit, being raped by a gorilla. I just like, fucking hell, man. And she just turned to me and went, Dad, why are we watching this? Terrible movie. It's somewhat disappointing. I have to now, with my kids, I have to watch the films that I think I remember well, just in case they don't fall into those kind of categories and stuff. I'll never forget, it'll haunt me to the day I die, where I think it might have been American Pie or something, which I kind of remember differently, when my 7-year-old daughter just went, Dad, what's a blowjob? And I'm like, We've got about 5 minutes to go, and I can hear my dogs are kicking off next door, thinking that there's some kind of insurrection going on. But I was just wondering if anyone wanted to end on any thoughts on just great examples of film music, great moments in a film where you think they've absolutely nailed it. We've had some really, really great suggestions here. I had great pleasure researching this last video that I did, and to find out that the first commissioned score ever was Camille Saint-Saëns, who was a very colourful individual, famous for Carnival des Animaux. And his score, the world's first film score, absolutely beautiful. I haven't seen the film, but just stunning. Elliot.
Yeah, if I had to say one piece of music that, like, just every time I watch this film, it's just like, yes, and it's one of my favourite films, and that is the ending of Aliens, when they get on the flying machine and they go up and the nuke goes off. And yeah, every time, even though I listen to that, it's just like quintessential, just action music. And yeah, I can never, ever not get tired of listening to that piece of music. It's so good.
Brilliant.
James Horner, rest in peace.
Oh, yeah, yeah. James Horner. Again, I'm not meaning this as a name drop, but it is. But I had the most extraordinary experience with James, because I met him just once, and he was at Abbey Road, and I watched him scoring something. It was beautiful to watch, a massive hero. And he just had this really curious accent that sounded like it was right bang in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, a really confused accent. His parents were in the diplomatic corps, and it turned out he went to the same school as me, albeit 10 years before I did. He went to the Borstal of the school that I went to, that is known as Holland Park Comprehensive. So there you go. Adam, we'll end with you, sir.
Well, going back to video games, I don't know if they're misbeginning. Going back to video games, I think the score to Battlefield 1 is absolutely beautiful. And if you're, just listen to that score. If you're never going to play the computer game, that's entirely up to you. But the music to that game is beautiful. I couldn't tell you who it was by. I'm not going to get it right, but yeah, Battlefield 1, lovely.
And it's so wonderful to see all of these concerts that are happening surrounding computer games. And computer games are part of the, this amazing resurgence in orchestral music that's been going on since the 1990s, courtesy of Hans Zimmer, I would say, of making it popular again. And it's wonderful that people are kind of getting off their console and going to these concerts that are selling out around the place. Talking of which, Hans is in Glasgow in a couple of weeks. I may pop along and say hello.
Oh, I'm jealous. I don't have a ticket for this one.
Yeah,
I saw him last time when he was in Glasgow.
Yeah.
And it's funny, just very quickly, another one of my useless facts, but always good for a pub quiz. Inception.
Yep.
So the score for Inception, I'm sure the cue is the dream is collapsing. I think it's that one. For people that have seen the film, you know that it's an Edith Piaf song called Je n'en regrette rien that kind of tries to wake everybody up. Hans knew that was going to be the song choice. Chris Nolan has specified that in the film. And again, the Inception is about time slowing down. So Hans took that song and it slowed down quite a bit. And if you slow it down, you get the massive big brass stabs at the start of The Dream Is Collapsing. And I think the story goes that Chris Nolan wanted to change the song, and Hans was like, no, you can't do that, because I need to then rewrite the entire score. But it is, I've said this to you before, Christian, I should bring it in. I do have a mock-up of it slowing down, and you hear it go from the Edith Piaf song to the Hans Zimmer cue.
Come on, mate, bring it in. We're going to have fun tomorrow because we're setting up some microphones into the in front of the things that we can't mention. I'm still teasing, Elliot. Sorry, mate. Anyway, listen, it's been yet another amazing conversation that I look forward to every week. Just to let you all know that we're just moving the live podcast back to the main channel. I do apologise for this kind of backing, toing and froing, but podcast, the whole thing is kind of new to us, and we've been experimenting with different ways of doing it and using it so it doesn't kind of mess up the YouTube algorithm and all of that kind of stuff. And we think that this is going to be the best solution to bring it back, just so that we can welcome some more people in who probably aren't aware now that we're doing these conversations every week. And then dates for your diary, if you can make it up to Edinburgh for what will probably be quite a wet and windy solstice walk with treats afterwards, then that's going to be on Solstice Day, which he says, looking at Slack to get that, 21st of December, date for your diary. Also, this podcast, just for 1 week only, is going to move to Black Friday, where we're going to hopefully get some guests on. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. with a very special guest. And it's not the president. Although that would be interesting. What's your favourite film score? I wonder what that would be. Maybe a question for us all next week. Lots of love. See you later.
If you feel like you are losing your grip, might suffer a trip or abandon